experiment, enable and establish the new work order. I'm Linda Hamman, founder and CEO of Talk2Us, and in this evening session we'll be reimagining the new work order with one of my long-standing clients, BankservAfrica. Welcome guys! We're currently assisting them in developing their communication platforms and operationalising and aligning their brand DNA messaging so that it's accessible to everybody, and in doing that, creating meaning for their people. Just to give you some background about BankservAfrica before I bring on Clive and Zelda, it's Africa's largest automated payments clearinghouse. So it touches every single one of our lives actually. They process billions of transactions valued at trillions of rands per year. Their clients include banks, corporates, government and retail sectors. They collaborate with various parties to bring the unbanked into the formal financial system through the modernization of South Africa's low-value payments infrastructure. And it's mutually beneficial collaboration for them to achieve this goal with all their clients and, of course, their clients' clients. They are innovative in their overall approach, and their efforts are to improve their processes and procedures to be more humanistic, centered, which is, in my opinion, rather remarkable. So this has been a challenging time for them, as for so many organizations, and I have with me this evening key role players that are operating in the people potential space, which is great. They're the nursing staff, the front line in corporates. I'd like to welcome Zelda Wagner and Clive Lacey. Zelda is the head of human capital for BankservAfrica. She's responsible for leading a team that creates business solutions that foster high levels of employee engagement through recruitment, performance, and talent management, leadership development, and solid change management practices. In her role, she's committed to balancing the needs of BankservAfrica's people with the needs of the other stakeholders in the business. Having grown up with 30 brothers in the Abraham Creel orphanage in Langlaagte, she experienced human behavior up close and personal, and is fascinated by it. An autodidact by nature, Zelda is a true believer in lifelong learning. She is always looking for business solutions or spending time on activities that reduce stress and build resilience. The time she savours the most, however, is the time spent with her family and her 2 Yorkies. Clive Lacey is the manager of people support at BankservAfrica, the area that partners human capital with business, aligning the processes and practices with people. He has a BCom in industrial psychology and has been in the banking industry for 30 years, mostly in the people space. He has a passion for people, balancing their interests with that of the business and its core strategic objectives and purpose. I don't think anybody could be better suited in talking about the new work order and workplace order than he, and how it's affected the people in BankservAfrica and probably organizations at large. And Zelda, how have you found it with them having the equipment that they need in their offices? Have they all got, at home, and are they, because I know I've spoken to a lot of people and they're saying they don't necessarily have a comfortable chair at home, or they don't have all the devices that they need, or they don't have fiber. And then you get the ones who go into the office saying the office is just horrible because it's empty and it's like a ghost town in there. How has people been experiencing that, and how have you been dealing with that?
My staff member phoned me and said to me, she's currently sitting on a plastic outside chair and her back is killing her. And it breaks a person's heart because you can't sit on that type of chair for 8 hours a day. And the fact that you kept quiet about it for 7.5 or 8 weeks really, really, really saddened me. And it was as easy as picking up a phone and saying, guys, I need an office chair. I need this employee to come and fetch her office chair. You need to sit comfortably. You need to find a little space that's yours, that you can say, this is the place where I work. This is where I can focus. This is a space for me to do deep thinking work if needs be. And also, I think boundaries are important. I think we are asking our staff, we've done a lot, but now we are asking, what have we missed? Because circumstances at home is very different, dependent on a lot of factors. And we might think, You called us nursing staff. I've never been called that before. So I'll add that to my CV. Thank you for that. But it's that thing that from a different lens, we're potentially missing something, and we really want to encourage. And we have encouraged our staff to come and tell us, what have we missed? How do we make it a little bit more easy so that you feel comfortable, that you can sit for 8 hours if needs be?
Yeah, I think it is a challenge. I watched one of the people that I know, they sent me a picture. They were in Natal, and she was sitting on her bed, and she had the ironing board in front of her with the PC on it. So, that saying, a boer maak 'n plan. Well, was that ever the case? Zelda, during the process, you guys went through a recruitment exercise for a new CEO. How did you find that? Was it challenging trying to do this all online and not being able to have face-to-face meetings, etc.?
Yeah, it was a very different recruitment process, but quite a bit of fun, I must admit. We started the process before lockdown, so at least we had some face-to-face meetings. As the process progressed and you go into different phases of the recruitment process, we just virtually moved everything to the virtual Zoom and team sessions. Some of them worked exceptionally well. Some of them had very poor sound quality, internet challenges, noise factors, the stuff that we deal on a daily basis. However, we have successfully placed a candidate, not just in the CEO role, but in many other roles in the organization. We have, as an example, placed a new employee in our team as our head of learning and development. And I think as a team, we really all pull together quite nicely to make the individual feel very welcome. And we've met face to face, and he's met some members of the team and at least his team. And it's been fascinating listening to his experience around it, the anxiety and the stress it caused. Different from how it would be if you start a new job and first I'm going to meet a team, I'll get to know an executive management structure. It brings very different stress factors to the workplace as well.
Can I just add to that?
Yes.
As Zelda says, our colleague who just started, I haven't personally met him yet, face to face. So I virtually met him, so I meet him on Zoom and Teams and all that, but I've not met him yet face to face. But that seems to be the way it's going. I mean, we've recruited since lockdown about 20 people, and most of the company has not met those people face to face, and that is just something we are probably going to have to get used to. That is probably the way life is going to carry on. For a while.
So
now.
on that note,
we're doing things differently.
On that note, how long do you think you're going to remain in this situation where you have most of your people at home and only certain people back in the office? Do you think it's going to last far into the new year or further? Because I know I was speaking to some of our other clients, they said they're only bringing people back into the office in 2022. So I thought, sure, so what is your view on that?
Yeah, so EMT team that looks after the emergency management of BankservAfrica, and we are really wanting to keep our staff safe and healthy. There's no immediate plans for us to return to the office. There's very few limited number of people on premise at the moment. I think we will relook the strategy sometime during maybe January next year only, but for the remainder of this year, we are asking people to stay home and stay safe. Linda, for us, our employees' health comes first. We want to make sure that they're comfortable at home, they're productive, they can stay safe, and we limit interaction as far as we possibly can.
Yeah, we've got about, just to add to that, there's about 10% of our staff who come into the office at any sort of point, at any point in time. because unfortunately they have to be on the premises. They are regarded as critical, essential employees who sort of manage the national payment system. So some of those actions cannot be done at home. Although we are starting to get them set up with laptops and equipment to do so. At this point in time, there's about 10% of our workforce who need to be at the workplace, but the rest, they're all at home.
And Clive, how's their emotional well-being? Is this affecting them? Are you finding that there are people who are battling? I understand the physical side, and I understand that a lot of people are not going for the checks that they should be going for because they don't want to go to hospitals. But how have you found the emotional and the mental well-being of your staff? Have you been able to give them a hand? Are they concerned? Are they worried? Or how have you found that, and how have you been handling it?
I think at the beginning there were some emotional issues, and perhaps even a little bit into lockdown, people also started getting a little bit anxious. We as human capital actually undertook to contact every employee in the company to see how they're doing, and we've done it twice, in fact, since lockdown. So we're keeping in touch with them as best we can, and in those discussions with them, we ask them things like, how are you coping? How's your physically, how are you coping? Mentally, how are you coping? Your emotions and all that. So we're keeping tabs on that and keeping stats and making things available for them. We have had a couple of programs that we've put in place. We had a coaching program set up which helped people who had problems working from home. So we had virtual sessions on that, and we had quite a lot of sessions. I think there must have been about 20 odd sessions, if not maybe a few more overall. We do have an ICAS program. If people are really feeling emotionally, not up to it or anxious, we refer them to ICAS. They're on board with ICAS. We've got many other support mechanisms like our Let's Talk sessions, where we have our executive talking to the company. And that's quite an interesting thing, actually, because, that gives people a little bit of security, I think. By being able to talk to their leaders is supportive for them. When we were at the office, on site, we'd have these sessions, and we might get about, 80, 100 people at those sessions in an auditorium. Now we're getting over 200 people online. So it's almost, it's been almost a blessing, this lockdown, because we're engaging more with people, with our employees. But as I say, it does give our employees a sense of comfort that they can talk to their executives. From a physical side, just a brief one, we actually have reflexology available for people if they need some physical, pampering just to help them through. We actually also have a Zoom exercise session twice a week, where we invite employees to come and join us in an exercise session, which we put a video on, and everyone does their thing or whatever. But that's also quite good for people physically and mentally, for that matter. So those are a few of the things we're doing. Well,
like I said earlier, you guys are impressive in your innovation. What I was quite interested in, as we've been looking through what's happening in companies, I think there's always been this incidental collision, and where innovation has sparked at the water cooler or in the coffee shop or at lunch, where people sit down and talk about something and they think, oh, well, that's the first time I've thought of that, because they're just having these incidental conversations. Do you find it more difficult having to have deliberate sessions whereby you try to get a sparking of innovation, or is it still just happening that people are contacting each other via various methods without it being a deliberate thing? How's that being dealt with? Zelda?
Sorry, Clive. If I think of our team, It's the regular check-ins. It's we do a Monday morning check-in as an example, an interesting debate and discussion. We have a management check-in once a week with me and my team. And you know what, Linda, as much as we get busy and you have this busyness syndrome, I've been finding that we are having a little bit more of meaningful conversation. Time is of the essence because all of a sudden you're on Zoom a lot more. So I think I can speak for my team here, is like, I feel that we are more prepared when we come to meetings because of the time span that's so short. As far as innovation is concerned in general in the organization, I have honestly not seen a decline or a spike. I think it still happens naturally in teams. If I think of just from an innovation perspective, we've done the Let's Talks for many months. Yes, we've got better numbers, but as an example, this week we invited a comedian so that we could just laugh and have a little bit of fun. It's not something that we would have done when we were back at the office. It would have just been the normal old, we sit down, we ask the question, we listen, and we leave. So I think people in their own ways, in small ways, are finding innovative ways to cope with our current reality.
Yeah.
How have you been? I mean, you yourselves have obviously got concerns and you yourselves are worried about COVID and certain elements of it. And it's I would think, quite difficult to keep the people working for you and with you positive and confident when you yourselves are wobbling a bit. What have you been doing to manage that for yourself? Clive?
For myself, look, I can talk about how we do things with the team, but because that impacts me as well. We do try and have these regular sessions, as Zelda says, but we try and make it different. We've got like a happy hour session coming up fairly soon, where we just do a few fun things. So that sort of takes your mind off being anxious and brings that team spirit together. Me personally, I'm quite a relaxed guy, so this whole lockdown thing is quite nice for me and pleasant. I don't have a real issue with it. I'm not anxious. I'm not, so I'm more concerned about the other people who might be, as opposed to myself. And that's why we try and do these special sessions, which will lighten the mood a bit and get people on board. I'm sure Zelda will have something that she does.
I think for me, Linda, being in the moment is so important, and not leaning into the future for too long or too far, because nothing is promised tomorrow. I've got this moment. So I've always, over the last couple of months, really tried to remind myself of that a lot. Because when we start thinking the thought, we start feeling the feeling, whatever that is, good, bad, or indifferent. So why live in fear about what tomorrow might bring if I actually have no control over that? So a lot of conversations where I've had with people outside my team was really about understanding what's my circle of control and what can I influence, and focus on that. Focus on small little milestones. Let's not worry about the 5-year plan today. A lot of stuff in our country can still go either way. So let's just be here now. Let's focus on the stuff that matters for today. I must admit, had up and down days like everybody else, but I still believe it's a choice. It's a choice what I do in this point and at this moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
Do either of you think we'll ever go back to pre-COVID way of operating, or has this changed the work order and the workplace for good? Zelda?
Definitely changed for forever and for good. I think we'll, and I can talk for my team and not on behalf of an organization. I think it will be on a rotational basis. I do believe that social interaction is key and important. We are human beings. We want social interaction. But being together in one building as 415 people, I don't think will ever exist. I think it will be a hybrid of working from home or a coffee shop or whatever suits you, to working in the office. I think the magic there and the key would be, how do I get productivity, ensure delivery towards an outcome, and manage a virtual team that lives in one country successfully. That is a challenge, and it depends on your own value systems and beliefs, how you will then, as a line manager, as an example, manage that dynamic. So I think for some people it will be natural and easy, and some might struggle a little bit. But going back to the office and having everybody there, I don't think will exist in the future.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, Linda. In fact, we are already talking about giving people, making it more convenient for people to work from home by giving them packs that will equip them to be able to work from home. Like get an inverter, have a printer. At the moment, people are still going into the office because they need to print stuff. They've got to get permission and all that type of thing. It's special permission to go and get things printed. But, the new way is going to definitely be, you'll have all this stuff at home. And it'll be, as Zelda says, a hybrid stuff about maybe going into the office once a week or whatever it might be, once a month even. But you'll predominantly be working remotely.
So, Linda, we're busy with an engagement survey, and a part of that engagement survey is asking our employees how they see the world of work going forward. So that we also get feedback before we actually make decisions that will impact an entire workforce. What works well? Let's understand that. And what's the stuff that doesn't work? So can we influence it? Can we change it? And as an organization with that data, we will then make decisions around, so what do we do in the next 6 months? So I think as HC practitioners, we sometimes think we should have all the answers. And I think I've made peace throughout this process specifically that, you know what, sometimes we don't have an answer. And the person with the problem most probably has the answer. So we should have courage to have those conversations, ask the questions, and listen. When people give a solution, really brainstorm it and think about possibilities with that person. And many a true word spoken in jest. That was one of my big learnings over this period. And I've become an IT fundi. All of a sudden, we are all digging deep to find IT skills we didn't know existed.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you have to think of 3 things that have been extremely difficult for you to deal with during the pandemic and the way of operating at a personal and a professional level, and 3 things that you would be disappointed about if they should return to normal, what would they be, Zelda?
What have I found difficult? I think managing my own time, because the home life bleeds into the work life, and sometimes the lines get a little bit blur. So I must admit, I found that very challenging in the beginning. It's starting to get better. I'm putting in different boundaries, better boundaries. I've also asked my home family, not the work family so much, but the home family, to say, help me stick to my own boundaries. Help me stay honest. Definitely the technology challenges was tough. I've experienced some very interesting stuff this week. So hence I'm saying I've now become an IT fundi. I think in the beginning what I struggled with, when you're in the office, you can lean over your desk and you can quickly ask a question and get information. Now, you need to either set up a meeting, you must make time for a phone call, And if you need to get information from a couple of people to make a decision, it takes 3 or 4 times as long. So those things was quite difficult to manage in the beginning. I think once you've been through the cycle, it's important to sit and do some reflective work, because that really helps from a planning perspective to see how can I do it differently going forward. What will I be disappointed if it has to return? I love the absolute silence and no disruption. So as much as I miss leaning over and asking for information, it's nice when you've booked thinking time and you manage your home well and people respect your time, is that you can actually sit and do that stuff, which was quite difficult when working in an open plan office. The traveling I don't miss at all. I think the roads are so much calmer without me being on them, so it's lovely. I must admit, when I go out to the shops, I struggle because it feels like I'm a new learner on the road. And I love working in my own environment. I have incense burning as an example. It's not something you traditionally would do in an office. So yeah, those are the types of things that will take big adjustment for me. Yeah.
Mine are a little similar to Zelda, but the difficult things during the pandemic definitely was technology. I mean, that is a pain in the neck. It's getting better. But, and it's maybe not technology as well. It's actually the whole load shedding business as well, because that also impacts your technology. But this buffering all the time, this has been fantastic this evening because there's been nothing like that. But sometimes during the day, maybe there's so many more people on the airwaves that it just buffers too much and you get disconnected and whatever. Another thing is the social interaction. So, the leaning over and talking to your buddy over your desk. That's fine. I miss that. And I miss the banter with the team, and someone says something at the end of the office and you chirp back. That social interaction that can be. I miss that. And the boundaries. Boundaries is another thing. You have to set boundaries, otherwise you're going to be totally swamped with what you have to do here. And I've battled with that. I've only recently said, well, that's it. I am actually sticking, and that's it. And I'm one of those Zoom exercise people in the office. And in the beginning, if at 4:30 came and I've got a call from someone from a work perspective, 4:30 was the exercise time, I would take the call. I eventually said, I'm not taking the call anymore. I will do my exercise, in the session, and I will call them at 5 o'clock when I'm done. What's half an hour? So, you have to, those boundaries are very important. What good has come out of the lockdown? Was that the second bit? What would I be disappointed about if it went going back to the old ways? I like the flexibility. It's not necessarily about where you work. It's around the fact that if I want to get up at 7 o'clock today and only start working at 9 o'clock and I'll finish at 10 that night, that's fine. You've got that flexibility to do that. Obviously you must make plans with your boss and all that, but that flexibility is there. If I want to zoom out to Dis-Chem to get my medicine or whatever, I can go quickly. So that is really a nice thing. The disruptions is something I definitely don't miss. Having no disruptions allows you to think. You need that in certain times. Need quiet so that you can think. And at the office, unfortunately, those disruptions you never have that quiet time to think properly. So I wouldn't like it to go back to that. And Was there? Well, I can't think of another one, but that's about them for me. These are interesting times. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I'll second that. They are interesting times for sure. But I think you're both shining examples of positivity and moving with the times and changing. You know, there's a lot of people who are still stuck in thinking that we're going to at some stage get back to normal, and they haven't accepted it. And I think that's going to just slow them down with the process of moving into what we are going to be and how things are going to change. And it seems like, you know, I always say culture is a bit like if you take a fish in the water is what everybody focuses on, which is the environment and not the fish. And when you're all in a workplace together, that's sometimes quite easy to do. So you worry so much about the environment that you don't worry about the fish. And I think there's a big switch there and a swing there. And it seems like everybody worry about the fish now. And it's nice to see that you've already adopted that and you're doing that. And I think we've run over our time, but I'd just like to say thank you so much for your time this evening. It's been so valuable, and I think our clients would be over the moon listening to this. If they haven't listened now, there'll be a recording of it. So thank you very much, guys, for all your time and effort and making it so late in the evening. And I've got my inverter screaming at me because now we're on load shedding. So thank you for your time. And hopefully we'll last through to get the battery working. So yeah, there we go. Thanks so much for your time, and I'll see you in the week or chat in the week. But thank you very much for your time. Zelda, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Right, everybody, our next session is catch up at 8 tomorrow morning. Oliver will be talking about organizational culture. If you want to do a catch up session, if you missed it earlier in the week, followed by the marvelous Matthew, who will be giving you tips on how to take back your weekend. And then again, as always, if you found this interesting, please like, follow, subscribe and share, but most importantly, talk to us. Thank you and good night.